It was December 4th, 2025 at 2:47 a.m. when I woke to find my bedroom flooded with a light so brilliant I couldn't breathe. And Jesus stood at the foot of my bed with tears streaming down his face, and he spoke words that shattered everything I thought I knew. Jonathan, they're running to all the wrong places. December 2025 will reveal who prepared and who presumed. I'm about to show you the 6 safe places I've ordained, and most of my people, most of them, are heading straight into danger because they've listened to voices louder than mine. Not everyone who sees this message is meant to see it. Some will scroll past. Some will ignore it. But you've been marked. Before I go further, I need to ask you something. Drop your prayer request in the comments right now. I don't care how impossible it seems. I don't care if you've prayed it 1,000 times. There's an anointing on this message that's different, and I know, that God is going to move in supernatural ways for those who engage with what I'm about to share. And if you're a true believer, if you want to be part of what God is doing in these final moments, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell, because what I'm about to tell you over these next few nights isn't going to be popular. It's going to challenge you. It's going to make you uncomfortable, but it might just save your life. You know me as the guy who plays Jesus in The Chosen. For years now, I've had the incredible privilege, the overwhelming responsibility of portraying the Son of God on screen. I've studied his words, walked in his sandals, literally, and tried my best to honor him in every scene, every moment, every breath. But I need you to understand something. What happened to me 3 nights ago had nothing to do with The Chosen. Nothing to do with acting or scripts or cameras. What happened to me was more real than anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. Let me take you back to that moment. December 4th, 2025, 2:47 in the morning. I hadn't been sleeping well for weeks. There was this weight, this heaviness in my spirit that I couldn't shake. I'd been praying, fasting, asking God what was happening, why I felt this growing sense of urgency, this dread mixed with anticipation. I'd go to bed exhausted and wake up hours later with my heart pounding, feeling like something massive was about to break loose in the spiritual realm. That night, or rather that morning, I woke up suddenly. Not gradually. Not the way you normally drift from sleep to waking. It was instant. 1 second I was unconscious. The next, my eyes were wide open, and I was completely alert. And that's when I saw the light. It started at the foot of my bed, just a pinprick at first. Like a star had somehow fallen through my ceiling and was hovering in my bedroom. But within seconds, maybe 3, maybe 5, it expanded, grew, intensified until my entire room was engulfed in this radiance that wasn't harsh or painful, but somehow penetrating. It went through my eyes, through my skin, through every cell in my body. I could feel it in my bones, in my lungs, in the deepest parts of my soul. I tried to move, couldn't. Not because I was paralyzed with fear, but because moving seemed irreverent, inappropriate. Like my body instinctively knew that whatever was happening required absolute stillness. And then he appeared. Jesus. Not the Jesus I portray on The Chosen. Not the gentle, approachable Jesus we sing about in worship songs. This was Jesus in his full, terrifying, overwhelming glory. He stood at the foot of my bed, and I'm telling you, I could feel the power radiating off him in waves. His eyes, oh God, his eyes, they weren't just looking at me, they were looking through me, into me, seeing everything I'd ever done, every thought I'd ever had, every secret I'd ever kept. But here's what broke me. He was crying. Tears were streaming down his face. And in that moment, I felt the weight of his grief like a physical thing pressing down on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I literally could not draw air into my lungs because the sorrow, the anguish coming from him was so intense, so all-consuming. "Jonathan," he said, in his voice. I can't even describe it. It was gentle and thunderous at the same time. It filled the room and whispered directly into my heart simultaneously. "Jonathan, do you know what's coming?" I wanted to answer. I tried to answer, but no words would come. I just stared at him, trembling, tears now pouring down my own face. "December 2025, he continued, and with each word, I felt the urgency increase. "This month, these weeks, this is when the separation begins. This is when it becomes clear who has been building on the rock and who has been building on sand. The storms are coming, Jonathan. Not someday, not eventually. Now. They're here. And my people," his voice cracked with emotion, "my people are running to all the wrong places." He moved closer then, and I instinctively pulled back, pressing myself against the headboard. Not because I was afraid he would hurt me, but because I was suddenly, devastatingly aware of my own unworthiness. How could I be in the presence of such holiness? How could someone like me, with all my failures and shortcomings, be in the same room with the King of Kings? But he kept moving closer until he was standing right beside my bed, and he reached out his hand. I could see the scar in his palm, the mark where the nail had pierced him, and he placed it on my shoulder. The moment he touched me, everything changed. Suddenly, I wasn't in my bedroom anymore. I was standing on a hillside overlooking a vast landscape. Below me, I could see thousands, no, millions of people, all moving in different directions. Some were rushing towards cities, massive urban centers with towering buildings. Others were heading into the wilderness, carrying supplies, looking over their shoulders nervously. Still, others were gathering in large groups, in churches and auditoriums, holding signs and singing songs. "Look," Jesus said, standing beside me now, his hand still on my shoulder. "Look at them, Jonathan. They're preparing. They're moving. They're trying to get to safety. But look closer. Look at where they're going." I looked, and as I looked, my vision seemed to zoom in, like a camera focusing, and I could see details I hadn't noticed before. The people rushing to the cities. They were carrying lists, plans, preparations. I could hear their thoughts somehow. "We'll be safer with more people. We need infrastructure. We need hospitals and supplies and organization." But as they entered the cities, I saw darkness beginning to descend. Not physical darkness, but something spiritual, something oppressive and suffocating. "They think safety is in numbers," Jesus said quietly. "They think safety is in human systems and structures. But they don't understand what's coming. The cities will be the first to fall. The systems they're trusting will be the first to fail." Then he directed my attention to those heading into the wilderness. "And these," he said, and I heard such sadness in his voice, "these are my people, who think they can survive on their own. They've stored up food and water. They've learned survival skills. They've found remote locations. But Jonathan, I never called them to isolation. I never called them to hide. They've confused preparation with paranoia, and they're about to learn that no amount of earthly preparation can protect them from what's coming." I was shaking now, trembling from head to foot. "Lord," I managed to whisper, "what is coming? What are you trying to tell me?" He turned to face me fully, and the intensity in his eyes nearly brought me to my knees. "Tribulation, Jonathan. The beginning of the end. Not the rapture. Not yet. But the shaking. The separating. The refining fire that will reveal what's real and what's been pretend. December 2025 is the beginning. And I'm giving you a message to deliver to my people. There are 6 places, only 6, where they will truly be safe. Not physically safe necessarily, but spiritually protected, spiritually secure, spiritually positioned to not just survive, but to thrive in what's coming. 6 places? I repeated, my mind reeling. What are they? Where are they? Tomorrow night, he said, and suddenly the hillside was fading and I was back in my bedroom. Tomorrow night, I'll show you the first 3. But Jonathan, he gripped my shoulder tighter. You need to understand something. Most of my people won't believe you. Most of them are so comfortable, so settled, so convinced they have everything figured out that they won't receive this word. But there's a remnant. There's a group of people who have been feeling what you've been feeling. They've been sensing the urgency. They've been crying out for direction. This message is for them. How will I know who they are? I asked, they'll recognize my voice, he said simply. They're marked, Jonathan, just like you. They have my seal on their foreheads, not visible to human eyes, but visible in the spirit realm. When they hear this message, something will resonate deep in their spirit. They won't be able to shake it. They won't be able to ignore it. They'll know it's from me. And then he was gone. The light faded, the presence lifted, and I was alone in my bedroom gasping for air, soaked in sweat, trembling uncontrollably. I looked at my clock, 3:33 a.m. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I couldn't. I sat on the edge of my bed, replaying everything I'd seen, everything he'd said, trying to make sense of it all. Part of me wondered if I dreamed it. Part of me hoped I dreamed it, because the alternative was too overwhelming, too terrifying. But I knew, deep in my spirit, I knew it had been real, more real than anything I'd ever experienced. As the sun came up, I made a decision. I was going to share this. I didn't care if people thought I was crazy. I didn't care if I lost followers or faced criticism. This was too important, too urgent, too critical to keep to myself. But I also knew I couldn't share everything at once. This had to unfold the way Jesus wanted it to unfold, in the timing he'd ordained. So let me tell you what I can tell you right now, based on that first encounter. First, time is shorter than we think. I'm not talking about some distant future event. I'm not talking about prophecies that will unfold over decades. I'm talking about December 2025, this month, the month we're in right now. Jesus made it clear that this is the beginning, the starting point, the moment when everything shifts. Second, the safe places aren't what we think they are. They're not geographical locations primarily, though location will play a role. They're not bunkers or storage facilities or remote compounds. They're spiritual positions, spiritual alignments, spiritual postures that will determine who stands and who falls when the pressure comes. Third, most Christians are unprepared, not because they're not sincere, not because they don't love Jesus, but because they've been listening to the wrong voices. They've been consuming comfortable theology instead of confrontational truth. They've been building their lives around what feels good instead of what's actually biblical. And here's what you need to hear. If you're watching this, if you've made it this far in this message, it's not an accident. You've been marked. You've been chosen. You've been positioned to receive what God is about to reveal, but you have to make a choice. You can click away right now, go back to your comfortable life, pretend you never heard this. Or you can lean in. You can prepare. You can position yourself in one of these 6 safe places before it's too late. I saw something else in that vision that I haven't told you yet. After Jesus showed me the masses of people running in the wrong directions, he showed me something different. Scattered throughout that landscape, I saw small groups, individuals, families. They weren't running. They weren't panicking. They were standing firm, and there was a light around them, the same light that had filled my bedroom. And as the darkness descended, as chaos erupted all around them, they remained untouched, protected, secure. These are my remnant, Jesus said. These are the ones who will hear your message and respond. These are the ones who will get into position before the storm hits. I'm telling you right now, you can be one of them. You're meant to be one of them. That's why you're here. That's why you're reading this. That's why something in your spirit is stirring as you take in these words. But you need to understand the urgency. December 2025 isn't some abstract date in the future. It's now. We're in it. The clock is ticking. And every day that passes without proper preparation, without proper positioning, is a day wasted. Tonight, as I'm writing this, I'm waiting for the sun to go down, waiting for that sacred time between midnight and dawn when the veil is thinnest, waiting for Jesus to appear again and show me the first 3 safe places. And tomorrow, or rather, later today, since I'll be posting this after the encounter, I'm going to share everything he shows me. But let me prepare you. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be easy. It's going to challenge everything you think you know about faith and safety and preparation. It's going to require radical obedience, radical trust, radical surrender. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to have your entire worldview shaken? Are you ready to discover that maybe, just maybe, you've been building your life in the wrong place? I wasn't ready. I'm still not sure I'm ready. But ready or not, this message is coming. Ready or not, December 2025 is here. Ready or not, the tribulation is beginning. And the question isn't whether it's coming. The question is, will you be in one of the 6 safe places when it arrives? I'm going to end part 1 here because I need you to do something before we continue. I need you to get alone with God. I need you to ask him honestly and vulnerably if you're in the right position. I need you to ask him if you're building on rock or sand. I need you to ask him if you're ready for what's coming. Don't lie to yourself. Don't default to comfortable answers. Don't assume you're fine just because you go to church or read your Bible or pray occasionally. Get real. Get honest. Get desperate. Because tomorrow night, I'm going to share the first 3 safe places that Jesus revealed to me. And I promise you, at least one of them is going to surprise you. At least one of them is going to convict you. At least one of them is going to require you to make a significant change in your life. But for those who receive this word, for those who respond in obedience, for those who get into position, there's protection coming. There's provision coming. There's supernatural peace coming that transcends understanding. You're marked. You're chosen. You're positioned to be part of the remnant. The question is, will you respond? Drop your prayer request in the comments. Subscribe if you're a true believer. And tomorrow, come back ready to receive the most important message you may ever hear. Time is running out. The safe places are ready, but the door won't stay open forever. I barely made it through December 5th. All day long, I felt like I was walking through water, like reality had become thick and heavy around me. I'd be in the middle of a conversation and suddenly realize I hadn't heard a word the other person said because my mind was somewhere else, back on that hillside, replaying Jesus' words, feeling the weight of his grief pressing down on my chest. People who know me kept asking if I was okay. "You look pale," they'd say. "You look shaken." And I was. I am. How could I not be? I posted part 1 around noon yesterday, and the response has been exactly what he said it would be. Some people scrolled right past. Some people left mocking comments. But then there were the others. The ones who messaged me privately saying, "I've been feeling this too. Something woke me up at 3 a.m. and I found your video. I've been crying for 3 days, and I don't know why. But when I heard your message, everything clicked into place. You, the remnant, the marked ones. You're finding this message exactly when you need to find it, but I need to tell you about last night, December 5th, 2025. And I need to warn you, what Jesus showed me in the second encounter was more intense, more detailed, more overwhelming than the first. If you thought part 1 was challenging, what I'm about to share is going to shake you to your core. I went to bed around 11 p.m. I didn't want to sleep. I was terrified and excited in equal measure, but I also knew I needed to be in that liminal space between waking and sleeping when he'd come before. So I lay there in the dark, praying, worshiping quietly, asking God to prepare my heart for whatever he was about to reveal. I must have drifted off around midnight because the next thing I knew, I was jarred awake by that same brilliant light. But this time it was different. This time, the light wasn't just in my room. It was coming from inside me, pouring out of my chest like I'd swallowed the sun. 1:11 a.m. I looked at my clock, and the numbers seemed to glow with significance. New beginnings. Divine alignment. And then I heard his voice, before I saw him. "Jonathan, are you ready?" I sat up, and there he was, standing not at the foot of my bed this time, but directly beside me, so close I could have reached out and touched him. His face was even more intense than before, his eyes burning with an urgency that made my heart race. "Lord," I whispered, "I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm willing. That's all I've ever asked for," he said, and there was both gentleness and steel in his voice. Willingness, surrender, obedience. "Jonathan, tonight I'm going to show you the first 3 safe places. But I need you to understand something before we begin. These aren't suggestions. These aren't options that people can choose if they feel like it. These are non-negotiable positions for those who want to survive what's coming. Do you understand?" I nodded, unable to speak. "And one more thing," he continued, moving even closer. "Some people who hear this message will try to fake their way into these places. They'll go through the motions. They'll say the right words. They'll perform the right actions. But I will know, I always know. And those who try to enter my safe places without genuine repentance, without true surrender, will find no protection there. Am I clear?" "Yes, Lord," I managed to say, though my voice was shaking. He placed his hand on my forehead, and instantly I was transported. Not just my spirit, my entire consciousness, my whole being felt like it was pulled out of my bedroom and placed somewhere else entirely. I was standing in what looked like a vast throne room. The ceiling stretched up impossibly high, disappearing into clouds and light. The floor beneath my feet was like transparent crystal, and I could see depths beneath me, galaxies, stars, entire worlds spinning in space. And directly in front of me was the throne. I can't describe it adequately. I won't even try. But Jesus was seated there, and the power, the majesty, the absolute authority radiating from him made me fall flat on my face. I didn't choose to fall. My body simply couldn't remain standing in that presence. The first safe place, his voice boomed out, echoing through the throne room, is radical worship. Not the worship my people perform on Sunday mornings. Not the songs they sing while thinking about their lunch plans. I'm talking about worship that costs something. Worship that requires sacrifice. Worship that puts me first even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it goes against everything their flesh wants to do. He stood from the throne and walked toward me, and I felt his hand under my chin, lifting my face to look at him. Jonathan, in December 2025, in the months that follow, there's going to be such chaos, such fear, such overwhelming darkness, that the only people who remain sane, who keep their peace, who stay connected to my presence, will be those who have built their lives on a foundation of worship. Do you know why? I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. Because worship shifts the atmosphere. Worship opens portals in the heavenly realm. Worship creates a barrier that the enemy cannot penetrate. When Paul and Silas worshipped in prison, the chains fell off. When David worshipped, demons fled from Saul. When my people worship, really worship from the depths of their being, they create a safe place around themselves that no weapon formed against them can penetrate. Suddenly the scene shifted. I was no longer in the throne room, but looking down at earth again, similar to the vision from the first night. But this time, instead of seeing masses of people running in different directions, I saw individual homes, individual lives, zoomed in with impossible detail. I saw a woman, maybe in her 40s, alone in her living room at 3 a.m. The television was off. Her phone was face down on the couch. She was on her knees, hands raised, tears pouring down her face, singing, not performing, not trying to sound good, just pouring out her heart to God with raw, desperate, beautiful worship. And as I watched, I saw a light, that same protective light from the first vision, forming around her home like a dome. Outside, darkness pressed in. I could see spiritual eyes, demonic forces, trying to breach the light, but they couldn't. Every time they got close, the light would pulse brighter and they'd be thrown back. She's in the first safe place, Jesus said beside me. For 3 years now, she's been waking up at 3 a.m. to worship, not because anyone told her to, not because she read it in a book, because my spirit called her and she responded. She built her life around worship, and now, when the darkness comes, she'll be protected. Then I saw another scene, a family, husband, wife, 3 kids, gathered in their living room on a Sunday morning. But they weren't at church. They'd given up their church attendance to pursue something deeper. Every Sunday for hours, they'd gather and worship. They'd pray. They'd read the Word together. They'd wait on God's presence until it filled their home. People judged them, Jesus said, and I heard anger in his voice. People said they were abandoning the body of Christ. People said they were being selfish. But I called them to this. I pulled them out of dead religion and into living relationship. And now, they're positioned in the first safe place. I wanted to ask a question. Wanted to understand if he was saying we should all leave our churches. But before I could speak, the scene shifted again. This time, I saw a man driving to work. Early morning, still dark outside. But instead of listening to music or podcasts or news, he was worshiping, singing at the top of his lungs. And I could see the light, that protective light, filling his car, extending out from the vehicle like a force field. 30 minutes every morning, Jesus said. That's all he gives me. 30 minutes of undistracted, undiluted worship while he drives. And it's enough. It's enough to position him in the first safe place because it's genuine. It's sacrificial. It costs him something. He'd rather listen to sports radio or catch up on the news, but he chooses me instead. That choice creates protection. The visions faded, and I was back in that throne room, on my face before Jesus. The first safe place is radical worship, he repeated, and I need you to tell my people. It's not about the length of time, though consistency matters. It's not about the quality of your voice, though I love every sound you make. It's about the posture of your heart. It's about putting me first. It's about creating space in your life where I am the priority, the focus, the center of everything. Those who worship me in spirit and in truth, those are the ones who'll be protected when everything else falls apart. I was trembling, overwhelmed, barely able to process what I was seeing and hearing, but he wasn't done. The second safe place, he said, and his voice took on a different quality, sharper, more confrontational, is radical obedience. And Jonathan, this is where most of my people are going to fail. Not because they don't love me, not because they're not sincere, but because they've been trained to negotiate with my commands. They've been taught that obedience is optional, that grace covers their deliberate disobedience, that I understand their excuses. He gripped my shoulders and lifted me to my feet, forcing me to look directly into his eyes. I'm tired, he said, and the intensity of his emotion shook me. I am tired of my people treating my commands like suggestions. I am tired of them picking and choosing which parts of my word they'll follow based on what's convenient. I am tired of them claiming they love me while refusing to do what I say. The throne room disappeared, and suddenly I was standing in what looked like a war zone. Buildings collapsed around me. Fire and smoke filled the air. People were screaming, running. Chaos everywhere, and in the middle of it all, I saw a man standing perfectly still, calm, at peace. The destruction swirled around him but never touched him. Do you know why he's protected? Jesus asked. I shook my head. 6 months ago, I told him to quit his job. It was a good job, great salary. Everyone thought he was crazy. His wife was terrified. But I told him to quit because that company was about to be involved in something dark, something evil, and I needed him out before it happened. And he obeyed, immediately, without negotiating, without trying to figure out all the details first. He just obeyed. And now, when judgment falls on that company and everyone associated with it, he's protected because he's in the second safe place, radical obedience. Another scene flashed before me, a woman sitting in a coffee shop with her friends. They were gossiping, tearing apart another woman who wasn't there, and I saw her face. She wanted to join in. She had information that would make the gossip even juicier. But then I saw something shift in her expression. She stood up. I can't do this, she said. I love you guys, but I can't participate in this anymore. And she walked away. Her friends were shocked, offended. She lost those relationships. But as I watched, I saw that protective light descend on her. Radical obedience. Jesus said, when I convict you, when my spirit checks you, and you respond immediately, even when it costs you relationships, comfort, reputation, that's when you position yourself in the second safe place. Then I saw something that wrecked me. I saw myself, not current me, but me from 5 years ago. I was at a party, and I knew that God was telling me to leave. The conversation had turned dark. The atmosphere was wrong, but I stayed. I rationalized it. I'm being a light, I told myself. I'm being relational. But God was saying leave, and I didn't obey. You weren't in the safe place that night, Jesus said quietly, and because of it, you opened a door to the enemy that took you months to close. Jonathan, I need you to tell my people. Partial obedience is disobedience. Delayed obedience is disobedience. Negotiated obedience is disobedience. When I speak, when I command, when I direct, they need to move immediately, without questioning, without hesitating, because in the days ahead, their survival will depend on their ability to hear my voice and obey it instantly. I was weeping now. Not gentle tears, but gut-wrenching sobs, because I was seeing all the times I'd failed to obey, all the times I'd negotiated, all the times I'd delayed. And I felt his hand on my head, comforting, but also correcting. This is why I'm showing you this now, he said, so you can get into position, so you can learn to obey quickly, so when the real tests come, you'll have built the muscle memory of obedience. The war zone faded, and I was back in the throne room, barely able to stand. The third safe place, Jesus said, and now his voice was tender, almost vulnerable, is radical intimacy. Not knowledge about me, not theology, not being able to quote scripture or win arguments. I'm talking about actually knowing me, being with me, spending time in my presence, not because you have to, but because you can't imagine not being close to me. He sat down, not on the throne, but on the crystal floor beside me, and pulled me down to sit next to him, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, sitting on the floor with me like we were old friends. Jonathan, do you know what breaks my heart more than anything? He asked. I shook my head. My people treat me like a vending machine. They come to me when they need something. They pray when they're desperate. They seek my face when they're in crisis. But when things are good, when life is comfortable, where are they? Busy, distracted, consumed with entertainment and hobbies and relationships with everyone except me. He turned to face me fully, and I saw tears in his eyes again. I died for relationship. I tore the veil so they could come directly into my presence. I gave them everything, so they could know me intimately. And most of them treat me like a distant relative they only contact when they need something. A new vision opened up before me. I saw a young man in his early 20s sitting in his room. His Bible was open, but he wasn't reading it like a textbook. He was talking to Jesus like he was right there in the room, laughing, crying, asking questions and waiting for answers. And I could see Jesus, actually see him sitting on the bed next to this young man, engaged in the conversation, delighting in the intimacy. 3 hours a day, Jesus said, that young man spends 3 hours a day with me, not out of obligation, out of love, out of desire, out of desperate need to be close to me. And because of that intimacy, because he knows my voice so well, when the chaos comes, when the deception is so thick that most people can't tell truth from lies, he'll be protected. He'll be in the third safe place. He'll hear my voice clearly because he spent years learning to recognize it. Then I saw a woman, elderly, maybe in her 80s. She was in a nursing home, mostly bedridden, but her room was filled with that light, filled with presence. Because even though her body was failing, she spent every waking moment communing with Jesus, talking to him, listening to him, being with him. The world looks at her and sees someone useless, Jesus said, and I heard righteous anger in his voice. They see someone who can't contribute, can't produce, can't do anything valuable. But I see a warrior. I see someone positioned in the third safe place. I see someone so intimately connected to me that she moves things in the spiritual realm that most people don't even know exist. When the tribulation comes, when everyone else is panicking, she'll be at perfect peace because she's been living in my presence for decades. The vision shifted one more time, and I saw a businessman, high-powered, successful, but in his office, before every meeting, before every decision, he'd close the door and spend 15 minutes just being still in God's presence, not praying long, eloquent prayers, just sitting, waiting, listening, being with Jesus. That's intimacy, Jesus said. That's relationship. That's what creates the third safe place. And I need you to tell my people, in December 2020, even beyond, the only ones who will maintain their sanity, their faith, their hope, will be those who know me intimately. Because when everything external is shaken, when every system fails, when every human solution collapses, they'll have me. And I'm enough. I've always been enough. But they have to know that through experience, not just theology. Suddenly, I was back in my bedroom, 3:47 a.m. I was soaking wet with sweat, shaking, gasping for air. The encounter had lasted hours in the spiritual realm, but only moments in the natural. I grabbed my journal and started writing frantically, trying to capture everything before the details faded. But even as I wrote, I knew this is just the beginning. 3 safe places revealed, 3 more to come. And then the real test begins. Will people actually respond? Will they actually make the changes necessary to position themselves in these places? Listen to me. If you're reading this right now, you need to ask yourself some hard questions. When was the last time you engaged in radical worship? Not sang along with a worship song in church, but actually created space in your life to pour out your heart to God in sacrificial praise. When was the last time you practiced radical obedience? When God prompted you to do something or not do something, did you obey immediately or did you negotiate? When was the last time you experienced radical intimacy with Jesus? Not learned about him, not studied scripture, but actually spent time just being with him, talking to him, listening to his voice. These aren't rhetorical questions. Your answers will determine whether you're positioned in the safe places or exposed to the coming storm. Tomorrow night, or rather tonight, December 6th, because I'm posting this immediately after the encounter, Jesus is going to show me the final 3 safe places, and he's already told me those 3 are going to be even more challenging than the first 3. They're going to require even deeper surrender, even more radical changes, but I'm also telling you, there's still time. December 2025 has just begun. The tribulation is starting, but the full intensity hasn't hit yet. You still have a window, maybe days, maybe weeks, I don't know, to get into position. So here's what I need you to do. Right now, before you move on to anything else, find a place where you can be alone. Put away your phone, turn off the TV, eliminate every distraction, and spend the next 30 minutes in radical worship. I don't care if you can't sing. I don't care if you don't know the words to any worship songs. Just pour out your heart to God. Thank Him. Praise Him. Tell Him you love Him. Do it out loud. Do it with everything in you. Then ask Him, what have you been telling me to do that I haven't obeyed? And listen. Really listen. When He brings something to mind, and He will, don't negotiate. Don't rationalize. Just say yes. Obey immediately. Finally, commit to spending time every single day in His presence. Not Bible study time. That's important, but different. I'm talking about just being with Him, sitting in silence, talking to Him like He's your best friend, because He is, because He wants to be. Do these 3 things, and you'll begin positioning yourself in the first 3 safe places. And when I share the final 3 places tomorrow, you'll be ready to receive them. One more thing before I end. Part 2. Several people have asked me if this is really happening, or if I'm making it up for views or attention. Let me be crystal clear. I would never exploit Jesus or use His name for personal gain. Everything I'm sharing is real. More real than I wish it was, honestly, because the responsibility of this message terrifies me. But I'm more afraid of disobeying God than I am of what people think of me. So I'm sharing it, all of it, exactly as it was revealed to me. You've been marked. You've been chosen. You've been positioned to be part of the remnant that not only survives, but thrives in what's coming. The question is, will you respond? 3 safe places revealed. 3 more coming. And time is running out faster than you think. I'm writing this with hands that won't stop shaking. It's 4:44 a.m. on December 6th, 2025, and I just experienced something so overwhelming, so devastating, so completely transformative that I honestly don't know if I have the words to describe it, but I have to try. God help me. I have to try, because what Jesus showed me tonight, this 3rd encounter, is the most urgent warning I've ever received. If you've made it this far, if you've read part 1 and part 2 and you're still here, still engaged, still hungry for more, then you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're part of the remnant. You're one of the marked ones. And what I'm about to share with you is going to require every ounce of courage you have. Let me tell you about last night, December 5th, all day yesterday. I couldn't function. After posting part 2, after sharing the first 3 safe places, I was physically exhausted but spiritually electrified. I kept reading the comments, seeing people's responses. Some of you are getting it. Some of you are already making changes, already repositioning your lives. Others are angry, defensive, accusing me of fear-mongering or false prophecy or leading people astray. And I get it. I understand. Because if someone had told me 6 months ago that I'd be receiving direct visitations from Jesus about the December 2025 tribulation, I'd have been skeptical too. But I'm past caring what people think. I'm past worrying about my reputation or my career or whether this costs me everything. Because the truth is, Jesus is coming back. The tribulation is beginning, and most of God's people are not ready. I tried to stay awake last night. I drank coffee at 10 p.m., then again at 11. I paced my room, praying, worshiping, preparing my heart for whatever was coming. But around midnight, exhaustion overtook me. I lay down on my bed, fully clothed, just intending to rest my eyes for a moment. That's when it happened. 2:22 a.m. I opened my eyes, and he was already there. Not at the foot of my bed, not beside me, but standing in the center of my room. And this time, he looked different. His face was set like flint. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were blazing with an intensity I hadn't seen before. This wasn't the gentle Jesus. This wasn't even the urgent Jesus. This was the righteous judge, and the atmosphere in my room was heavy with impending judgment. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice made my entire room vibrate. "Tonight, I show you the final 3 safe places, but first, I need to show you what happens to those who refuse to get into position. I need you to see what's coming for those who ignore this warning, because the time for gentle invitation is ending. The time for urgent warning is here, and soon, very soon, the time for judgment will arrive." I tried to speak, tried to respond, but before I could form words, he moved toward me with supernatural speed and placed both hands on either side of my head. The moment his hands touched me, I was ripped out of my body, pulled into a vision so vivid, so real, so absolutely terrifying that even now, hours later, I can still feel it. I was standing on a street in what looked like a major American city. I couldn't tell which one. Could have been New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, but it was big, metropolitan, the kind of place where millions of people live and work and go about their daily lives. Except everyone was running, screaming. The sky above was dark, not nighttime dark, but wrong dark, like the sun was still up, but something was blocking it, something oppressive and evil. Buildings were shaking, car alarms were blaring, and the people, oh God, the people, their faces were twisted with terror beyond anything I'd ever seen. "This is 3 months from now," Jesus said, standing beside me in the chaos. "March 2025. This is what happens when the first wave hits. Watch." I watched as people poured out of office buildings, out of apartment complexes, running in every direction but going nowhere. They were on their phones, but the phones weren't working. They were trying to start their cars, but the cars wouldn't start. They were calling out to each other, but no one had answers. And then I saw the Christians. I could identify them somehow, maybe by the crosses around their necks, maybe by some spiritual marker I could perceive in the vision. But I saw them, and what I witnessed broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. They were as panicked as everyone else, just as terrified, just as lost. They were crying out to God, but their prayers were hitting a ceiling, bouncing back, going nowhere. And I understood why. They weren't in the safe places. They'd heard the warning. They'd scrolled past these messages. They'd dismissed the urgency, and now they were exposed, unprotected, vulnerable to everything that was coming. "Do you see that woman?" Jesus pointed to a lady in her 50s, well-dressed, clutching a Bible to her chest. "She's been a Christian for 30 years. She goes to church every Sunday. She serves in the nursery. She tithes. She's a good Christian by every conventional measure. But she never learned radical worship. She never practiced radical obedience. She never pursued radical intimacy. Her faith was comfortable, safe, predictable. And now, when she needs my presence most, when she needs to hear my voice clearly, when she needs the protection that comes from being in the safe places, she can't find it because she never built it when times were easy. Tears were streaming down my face. Can you help her? Can you save her? I already died for her, Jesus said, and his voice was filled with such sorrow. I already provided everything she needs. I already gave her every opportunity to prepare. But she chose comfort over consecration. She chose entertainment over intimacy. She chose her own way over obedience. Jonathan, I can't force people into the safe places. They have to choose it. They have to want it. and she didn't want it badly enough to make the necessary changes. The scene shifted. Now I was inside a church, a big modern church with excellent lighting and a professional sound system and comfortable seating. The sanctuary was packed with people, and they were singing a worship song. But as I looked closer, I realized something was horribly wrong. Their mouths were moving, but no sound was coming out. They were going through the motions, but there was no presence, no power, no protection. This church has been teaching my people that grace means they don't have to change, Jesus said, and I heard anger in his voice now. They've been preaching a comfortable gospel that requires nothing, costs nothing, transforms nothing. They've told their people that I'm okay with their compromise, their secret sins, their double-mindedness. And now, when judgment comes, those people are going to look to their leaders for answers, and their leaders will have nothing to give them because they were never in the safe places either. I saw the pastor, a man, probably in his 40s, charismatic, well-spoken. He was at the pulpit, trying to pray, trying to encourage his congregation, but his words were empty, powerless. And I could see, in the spirit realm, demons laughing, actually laughing at him, because he had no authority, no protection, no access to the power of God because he'd built his ministry on people-pleasing instead of truth-telling. This is what happens, Jesus said, when my people choose popularity over purity, when they build their lives, their ministries, their churches on what's comfortable instead of what's true. December 2025 is exposing it all, every false foundation, every compromised position, every lukewarm commitment, and those who aren't in the safe places, they're going to be swept away. The vision shifted again, and this time I was in a home, a nice home, upper middle class, well decorated, comfortable. A family was huddled together in the living room. Mom, Dad, 2 teenage kids. They were praying, but I could hear their prayers, and they were praying for things, for God to protect their house, their cars, their savings accounts, their lifestyle. Look at what they're asking me for, Jesus said quietly. They're not asking for my presence. They're not asking to know me more deeply. They're not asking for the ability to stand firm in faith. They're asking me to protect their stuff, their comfortable American life, their material security, and they don't understand that's all about to be shaken. That's all about to be stripped away. And if their faith is built on that foundation, when it's gone, they'll have nothing left. I was weeping uncontrollably now. Lord, why are you showing me this? Why are you letting me see this devastation? He turned to face me, and the intensity in his eyes nearly brought me to my knees. Because you need to understand what's at stake. You need to feel the urgency. You need to communicate to my people that this is not a game. This is not a metaphor. This is not some distant future event. This is December 2025. This is now. This is real. And those who don't get into the safe places, they will not survive what's coming. Not physically, and more importantly, not spiritually. He gripped my shoulders. Now, are you ready to receive the final 3 safe places? I nodded, though every fiber of my being was trembling. The devastated city faded, and suddenly I was back in that throne room from the second night. But this time it was different. The throne room was filled with people, thousands of them, all on their faces, all worshiping, all radiating that protective light. The 4th safe place, Jesus announced, his voice echoing through the vast space, is radical holiness. Not legalism, not performance, not trying to earn my love through perfect behavior. I'm talking about genuine separation from the world, genuine consecration, genuine purity that flows from a transformed heart. He walked among the people on the floor, and as he did, I could see into their lives. I saw a man who'd given up pornography after a 15-year addiction, not just stopped looking, but dealt with the root issues, went through deliverance, and was now walking in complete freedom. The protective light around him was brilliant, almost blinding. Radical holiness, Jesus said. He didn't negotiate with sin. He didn't say, well, it's just pornography. Everyone struggles with it. He said, this is keeping me from intimacy with God, and I will do whatever it takes to be free. And now, he's in the fourth safe place. I saw a woman who'd walked away from a lucrative career because the company wanted her to lie, to manipulate, to compromise her integrity. She'd lost a 6-figure income. She'd been mocked by colleagues. But the light around her was steady and strong. Radical holiness, Jesus repeated. She chose my approval over man's approval. She chose integrity over income. She chose purity over prosperity. And now, she's positioned in the fourth safe place. Then I saw something that shocked me. I saw a teenage girl who'd given up social media entirely. Not just limited it, deleted it, removed herself from the constant comparison, the validation seeking, the performance-based identity. And around her was a peace, a clarity, a protection that most adults I know don't have. Radical holiness, Jesus said again. It looks different for everyone, but the principle is the same. Absolute separation from anything that hinders your relationship with me, anything that dulls your spiritual sensitivity, anything that divides your heart. Jonathan, I need you to tell my people, in the days ahead, the enemy is going to turn up the volume on every temptation, every distraction, every compromise. The only ones who will stand are those who have already drawn clear lines, who have already committed to holiness, who have already decided that nothing is worth sacrificing their intimacy with me. The scene shifted, and I was standing in what looked like a war council. Angels were gathered around a table, and they were discussing strategy. I could hear fragments of their conversation. These ones are protected. These ones are exposed. We need more reinforcements here. This area is completely unguarded. The fifth safe place, Jesus said, appearing beside me, is radical intercession. Not just praying for your own needs, not just asking me for stuff. I'm talking about standing in the gap, travailing in prayer, contending for others, engaging in the kind of spiritual warfare that most of my people don't even know exists. He gestured to the angels at the table. Do you know what determines where my angels are deployed? Intercession. When my people pray, really pray, with authority and persistence and faith, it releases angelic activity. It shifts spiritual atmospheres. It creates protection, not just for themselves, but for their families, their communities, their regions. I saw a woman I recognized from the earlier visions, the elderly woman in the nursing home. But now I could see what was happening in the spiritual realm while she prayed. Every time she interceded for her city, angels were dispatched. Every time she came against demonic activity, darkness was pushed back. This woman, who the world saw as powerless, was single-handedly holding back judgment from an entire metropolitan area. Radical intercession, Jesus said. Most of my people pray for 5 minutes and wonder why nothing changes. But there's a remnant, a small, faithful, persistent remnant who pray for hours, who fast and pray, who contend until they see breakthrough, and those intercessors are in the fifth safe place, protected, because when you fight for others, I fight for you. When you stand in the gap for someone else, I station angels around you. Then I saw a group, maybe 20 people, gathered in a home. It was early morning, maybe 5 a.m. They were praying with an intensity I'd rarely witnessed, crying out, declaring scripture, coming against darkness. And I could see, in the spirit realm, a massive protective barrier forming around their city, like a spiritual force field. These are the ones, Jesus said, his voice thick with emotion, who are going to determine what happens in December 2025 and beyond. Not the famous preachers, not the megachurch pastors, not the Christian celebrities. These hidden intercessors, these unknown prayer warriors, they're the ones holding back complete devastation. They're in the fifth safe place, and I'm raising up more. I'm calling more. But they have to respond. They have to be willing to pay the price of spending hours in prayer instead of hours on entertainment. The war council faded, and I was standing alone with Jesus in a vast, empty space. No throne room, no cities, no people. Just me and him, face to face. The sixth safe place, he said, and his voice was almost a whisper now, is the hardest one for most people. It requires the greatest surrender, the deepest trust, the most radical faith. He paused, looking at me with such intensity that I felt like he was looking into the very core of my being. The sixth safe place is radical surrender, complete, total, absolute abandonment to my will. Not, I'll follow you if you bless me. Not, I'll obey you if it makes sense. Not, I'll trust you as long as I can see the outcome. I'm talking about saying yes to me, even when it costs you everything. Even when you don't understand. Even when it looks like following me is leading you into disaster. He waved his hand, and suddenly, I was watching scenes from the Bible come to life before me. Abraham raising the knife over Isaac. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walking toward the furnace. Daniel being thrown into the lion's den. Esther saying, "If I perish, I perish." Radical surrender, Jesus said. Every single one of these people faced a moment where obedience to me looked like death, looked like loss, looked like the end of everything they held dear. But they surrendered anyway. They said yes anyway. And I protected them. I provided for them. I showed up in their darkest moment and proved that I am faithful. Then the scene changed, and I saw modern-day believers. A missionary in a hostile country who'd been told to leave but knew God was calling him to stay. The protective light around him was like a fortress. Radical surrender. Jesus said, I saw a mother who'd felt God tell her to homeschool her children, even though everyone, including her husband initially, thought she was crazy. The light around her family was palpable. Radical surrender, Jesus said. I saw a businessman who'd walked away from a deal that would have made him millions because God said no. He was now living more modestly, but the peace on his face, the protection around his life, was undeniable. Radical surrender, Jesus said. Jonathan, he turned to me. In the months ahead, I'm going to ask my people to do things that don't make sense. I'm going to tell them to move when logic says, stay. I'm going to tell them to give when wisdom says save. I'm going to tell them to speak when safety says be silent. And the only ones who will survive, the only ones who will be in the sixth safe place, are those who have already learned to surrender completely, those who trust me more than they trust their own understanding, those who say yes to me even when they can't see the path forward. He placed his hand on my chest, directly over my heart, and I'm telling you right now, I'm about to ask you to do something that terrifies you, something that makes no sense, something that could cost you your career, your reputation, your relationships. And whether you end up in the sixth safe place or not depends entirely on whether you say yes. I was shaking. What? What are you going to ask me to do? You'll know when the time comes, he said, and it's coming soon, very soon. But Jonathan, I need you to decide now. Will you surrender? Will you say yes, even if it costs you everything? Will you trust me even when the path is dark? I fell to my knees, and I want you to know, in that moment, I wasn't thinking about how this would sound in a video. I wasn't thinking about how inspiring it might be to viewers. I was thinking about everything I could lose. My career, my family's security, the respect of my peers, everything. But as I knelt there in that empty space with Jesus standing over me, I felt him flood me with his presence, his love, his strength. And I heard myself saying words I didn't even know I had in me. Yes, Lord. Whatever you ask, whenever you ask, however you ask, yes. And the moment I said it, the moment I surrendered completely, I felt something shift in the spiritual realm. That protective light I'd been seeing around others suddenly descended on me, wrapped around me, saturated me, and I knew I was in the sixth safe place. Jesus pulled me to my feet, and there were tears streaming down his face. "This is what I've been waiting for," he said. "This is the cry of my heart. Not people who follow me for blessings, not people who obey me when it's convenient, but people who surrender everything, who trust me completely, who say yes without negotiation." He embraced me then, actually embraced me, and I felt the weight of his love, his approval, his delight. And I heard him whisper in my ear, "Now you're ready. Now you can lead others into the safe places, because you know the cost, you know what it requires, you know it's not easy, but it's worth it." The vision ended abruptly. I was back in my bedroom, 4:44 a.m. My face was wet with tears. My shirt was soaked with sweat. My body was trembling uncontrollably. But I also felt something I'd never felt before. Absolute certainty, unshakable peace, complete confidence that no matter what comes, no matter how dark it gets, no matter what I'm asked to surrender, I'm going to be okay. Because I'm in the safe places, all 6 of them. And you can be too. Let me tell you what you need to hear right now. These 6 safe places aren't 6 different options where you pick the ones you like. You need all 6. Radical worship, radical obedience, radical intimacy, radical holiness, radical intercession, radical surrender. These are the only positions that'll provide protection in what's coming. And what's coming is closer than you think. I saw the timeline tonight. March 2025 is when the first major wave hits. That's less than 3 months away. 3 months to get into position. 3 months to make the necessary changes. 3 months to go from comfortable Christianity to consecrated discipleship. Can you do it? Will you do it? I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to cost you. It cost me. Even in saying yes tonight, I felt things breaking off, relationships ending, doors closing. But I also felt new doors opening, new relationships forming, new anointing flowing. Because here's what I've learned through these 3 nights of encounters. God doesn't call us to safety in the worldly sense. He calls us to surrender. And when we surrender completely, He provides protection that transcends anything we could arrange for ourselves. Tomorrow, or rather today, since I'm posting this as soon as I finish writing, I'm going to share part 4, the aftermath, the practical application, the specific steps you need to take over the next 30 days to position yourself in all 6 safe places. But tonight, I need you to do something. I need you to get alone with God. I mean really alone. Turn off everything. Eliminate every distraction. And I need you to ask Him, which of these 6 safe places am I not in? Where am I exposed? What do I need to change? And then, this is the hard part. I need you to actually do what He tells you. Not think about it. Not plan to do it eventually. Actually do it immediately. Because we don't have time for delayed obedience anymore. The tribulation is here. December 2025 is happening right now. The safe places are ready. The question is, are you? Drop a comment if you're committing to all 6 safe places. I need to know who's receiving this word, who's responding, who's part of the remnant that's going to stand when everything else falls. 3 nights, 3 encounters, 6 safe places revealed, and 1 final message to share tomorrow about how to walk this out practically. Time is almost up. The door is closing. But for those who respond, for those who surrender, there's protection, provision, and peace beyond anything you've ever experienced. You've been marked. You've been chosen. And now you've been warned. What you do next determines everything. It's been 3 days since the 3rd encounter. 3 days since Jesus revealed the 6th and final safe place. 3 days since I said yes to complete surrender, and I'm telling you, my life has not been the same. I'm sitting here on December 7th, 2025 at 6:18 a.m., watching the sunrise over Los Angeles, and I'm acutely aware that I'm living in 2 realities simultaneously. There's the natural realm, people going to work, traffic building on the freeways, coffee shops opening, life continuing as normal. And then there's the spiritual realm, the realm where I now see things I never saw before, where I feel the urgency pressing down like a physical weight, where I know with absolute certainty that time is running out. Last night, I didn't have another visitation. I actually slept through the night for the first time in 4 days. But when I woke up this morning, I heard His voice as clearly as if He were standing in my room. Now tell them what to do. Give them the practical steps. Give them the roadmap. Because revelation without application is just information, and information without transformation is useless. So that's what this final part is. Your roadmap. Your practical, step-by-step guide to positioning yourself in all 6 safe places before it's too late. But first, I need to tell you what's happened to me over the past 3 days, because I need you to understand. This isn't theoretical. This isn't abstract. When you respond to this message, when you commit to entering the safe places, things will change. Things will shift, and you need to be prepared for it. The cost of saying yes. Within 12 hours of surrendering to Jesus in that 3rd encounter, I lost a job opportunity, a significant one, a role I'd been pursuing for months that would have provided financial security for my family and elevated my career to a new level. I got the call at 9 a.m. on December 6th. We've decided to go in a different direction. The old me would have been devastated, would have questioned God, would have wondered if I'd made a mistake in saying yes to such radical surrender. But the new me, the me who's positioned in the 6th safe place, felt nothing but peace, because I knew God was closing that door, because it would have pulled me away from what He's calling me to do. It would have distracted me from this message, from this mission, from this moment. That same day, I had a conversation with someone I considered a close friend, someone in ministry, someone who I thought would understand what I was experiencing. I shared some of what Jesus had shown me, and their response was brutal. "Jonathan, you're going off the deep end. This sounds like New Age mysticism wrapped in Christian language. You need to be careful, or you're going to destroy your credibility." That hurt. It still hurts. But again, that protective light, that peace that comes from being in the safe places, it sustained me. Because I know what I experienced. I know what I saw. I know what Jesus revealed. And I'm no longer willing to tone it down or water it down or make it more palatable for people who are comfortable in their lukewarm faith. On December 7th, yesterday, I was removed from a group chat with several other Christian actors and content creators. No explanation, just removed. And I know why. Because I've been sharing these messages. Because I've been sounding an alarm that makes people uncomfortable. Because radical Christianity doesn't fit in polite Christian circles. But here's what else happened over these 3 days. I've received hundreds, literally hundreds, of messages from people saying, "I've been feeling this too. God woke me up at 3 a.m. to watch your video. I've been crying for days and didn't know why until I heard this message. I'm ready to get into the safe places. Tell me what to do. You, the remnant, the marked ones. You're finding this message exactly when you need it. And you're hungry, desperately hungry, for truth, for direction, for a roadmap that actually prepares you for what's coming. So let me give you that roadmap, the 30-day Safe Place Challenge." Jesus was very specific with me yesterday morning. He said, give them 30 days to radically reposition their lives. 30 days to get into all 6 safe places. 30 days before the window starts closing and the next wave of tribulation begins. 30 days from December 7th is January 6th, 2025. Mark that date. Circle it. Set an alarm for it. Because that's your deadline. That's how much time you have to make the changes necessary to be protected in what's coming. Here's your daily breakdown. Days. Radical worship. For the next 5 days, I need you to create a non-negotiable worship practice in your life. And I don't mean listening to worship music while you do other things. I mean intentional, focused, sacrificial worship. Here's your assignment. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you turn on the TV, before you do anything else, spend 30 minutes in worship. Set a timer. Put on instrumental worship music or worship a cappella, whatever works for you. But for 30 solid minutes, pour out your heart to God. Thank Him. Praise Him. Declare His goodness. Tell Him you love Him. Sing, even if you can't sing. Dance, even if you feel foolish. Lift your hands. Get on your face. Whatever it takes to shift your focus from yourself to Him. Some of you are already saying, "But I don't have 30 minutes in the morning." Yes, you do. You have 30 minutes that you currently spend on social media, or news, or hitting snooze. You're going to reallocate that time to worship, and here's what's going to happen. By day 3, you're going to feel the shift. You're going to notice a lightness, a peace, a clarity that you haven't felt in years. By day 5, you're not going to want to stop at 30 minutes. You're going to crave more time in God's presence.
That's when you know you're entering the first safe place. Days 6 to 10. Radical obedience. This is where it gets uncomfortable. For the next 5 days, I need you to ask God every morning, "What have you been telling me to do that I haven't obeyed?" And then, this is crucial, write down whatever comes to mind. Don't filter it. Don't rationalize it. Don't explain it away. Just write it down. It might be, forgive that person who hurt you. Quit that job. End that relationship. Give away that money. Stop watching that content. Start tithing. Apologize to that person. Delete social media. Whatever it is, write it down. And then, that same day, obey it. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. That day. I'm telling you, radical obedience requires immediate action. The moment you delay, the moment you negotiate, you step out of the safe place. By day
10. You will have obeyed at least 5 specific directives from God, and you're going to feel something you've never felt before. Supernatural confidence, authority, power. Because when you obey God consistently, you partner with His will, and His will is always backed by His power. That's when you know you're entering the second safe place. Days 11, 15, radical intimacy. Now we shift from doing to being. For the next 5 days, I need you to spend time with Jesus, not because you need something, not because you're trying to accomplish something, but just because you want to be with Him. Here's your assignment. Every day, find 30 minutes. Yes, another 30 minutes. I told you this would cost you. To just sit in God's presence. No agenda, no prayer list, no Bible study. That's important, but this is different. Just sit quietly and talk to Him like He's your best friend, because He is. Tell Him about your day, your fears, your hopes, your struggles, your joys, and then be silent. Wait, listen, see if He speaks back. Some of you have never done this. You've prayed at God your whole life, but never actually had a conversation with Him. This is going to feel awkward at first, weird, maybe even pointless, but push through, because by day 3 or 4, you're going to hear something, a thought that's clearly not your own, a word of encouragement, a direction, a whisper of love that pierces through all your noise and insecurity. And by day 15, you're going to realize you're not just learning about Jesus anymore. You're actually knowing Him, experiencing Him, being with Him. That's when you know you're entering the third safe place. Days 16, 20, radical holiness. This is the one most people will resist, but it's non-negotiable. For the next 5 days, I need you to ruthlessly eliminate anything in your life that's hindering your intimacy with God. Here's your assignment. Day 16. Audit your entertainment. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What content are you consuming? If it's not edifying you, building your faith, or bringing you closer to God, cut it off, delete it, cancel it, unsubscribe. Day 17. Audit your relationships. Who are you spending time with? Are they pulling you closer to God or further away? Are they encouraging your faith or mocking it? You don't have to be mean, but you do need to create boundaries. Some relationships need to end. Others need to be significantly limited. Day 18. Audit your habits. What are you doing in secret that you'd be ashamed for Jesus to see? Pornography, gossip, binge drinking, recreational drug use, whatever it is, repent, confess it, and take concrete steps to eliminate it from your life. Day 19. Audit your thought life. What are you dwelling on? What narratives are you repeating to yourself? Fear, anxiety, bitterness, Comparison? You need to take those thoughts captive and replace them with truth. Day 20. Audit your time. Where are your hours going? If you tracked every minute of your day, what would it reveal about your priorities? Reallocate your time toward the things that matter eternally. This is painful. I'm not going to pretend it's not. You're going to uncover areas of compromise you didn't even know were there. But by day 20, when you've ruthlessly eliminated everything that hinders your walk with God, you're going to feel clean, free, unencumbered. That's when you know you're entering the fourth safe place. Days 21 to 25, radical intercession. Now we move from internal work to external warfare. For the next 5 days, I need you to become an intercessor, a prayer warrior, someone who stands in the gap for others. Here's your assignment. Every day, spend 30 minutes. Yes, we're up to 90 minutes total now. Worship, intimacy, intercession, praying for other people. Not just God bless them prayers. Strategic, specific warfare prayers. Day 21. Pray for your family. Cover them in the blood of Jesus. Declare protection over them. Come against any demonic assignment targeting them. Day 22. Pray for your city. Walk around your neighborhood and pray. Declare that Jesus is Lord over your streets, your schools, your government buildings. Day 23. Pray for the church. Not just your church, but the global church. Pray for revival. Pray for leaders to be raised up. Pray for the lukewarm to be awakened. Day 24. Pray for the lost. Make a list of 5 people who don't know Jesus. Spend your 30 minutes interceding for their salvation. Contend for them. Day 25. Pray for your nation. Declare God's mercy. Ask for more time. Stand in the gap between judgment and the people. By day 25, you're going to notice something. You're not just praying anymore. You're shifting things. You're sensing spiritual movement. You're seeing answers. Because intercession releases heaven's resources into earth's situations. That's when you know you're entering the 5th safe place. Days 26 to 30. Radical surrender. This is it, the final safe place, the hardest one, the one that requires everything. For the next 5 days, I need you to surrender completely to God's will. Here's your assignment. Day 26. Write out a surrender declaration. God, I surrender my career to you, my finances to you, my relationships to you, my future to you, my life to you. Do with me whatever you want. Take me wherever you want. Use me however you want. Day 27. Identify your Isaac. What's the one thing you're holding on to? The one thing you're afraid God might ask you to give up? Your dream job? Your relationship status? Your geographical location? Your financial security? Your reputation? Name it. Day 28. Offer your Isaac. Tell God, even this. Even if you ask me to give up this thing I love most, I'll say yes. I trust you more than I trust this. Day 29. Wait for his response. Spend time in silence. See what he says. Sometimes he'll give it back, like he did with Abraham and Isaac. Sometimes he'll ask you to actually release it, but either way, you have to be willing. Day 30. Make it official. Do something tangible that demonstrates your surrender. Maybe it's writing yes on a piece of paper and putting it where you'll see it every day. Maybe it's a physical act of obedience to something specific he's asked. But make your surrender concrete, not just emotional. By day 30, by January 6th, 2025, if you've walked through this process faithfully, you will be positioned in all 6 safe places. And I can promise you, you'll feel different. You will be different. The fear that once gripped you will be replaced by faith. The anxiety that once consumed you will be replaced by peace. The uncertainty that once paralyzed you will be replaced by confidence in God's protection and provision. The urgent warning. But I need to tell you something that Jesus made very clear to me. The window for easy entry into the safe places is closing. Right now, while things are relatively calm, while you still have margin in your life, you can make these changes without extreme cost. But if you wait until March, when the first major wave hits, positioning yourself is going to be exponentially harder. It's like trying to build a bomb shelter while the bombs are already falling. Technically possible, but infinitely more difficult and dangerous. January 6th, 2025 is your deadline. That's 30 days from when I'm posting this. 30 days to radically reposition your life. What happens after January 6th? Jesus showed me that the next phase begins. The intensity increases. The pressure mounts. And those who aren't in the safe places are going to start experiencing what I saw in that third vision. Panic, confusion, terror, spiritual vulnerability. But those who are in the safe places, those who've spent these 30 days repositioning their lives, they're going to stand. They're going to be at peace. They're going to be conduits of God's presence to a world that's falling apart. The practical reality check. I know what some of you are thinking. Jonathan, this is too much. 90 minutes a day? Radical life changes? Surrendering everything? I have a job. I have kids. I have responsibilities. This isn't realistic. Let me be brutally honest with you. If you think you don't have time to get into the safe places now, you're not going to have time when the tribulation intensifies. And then it won't matter how busy you were or how many responsibilities you had. You'll just be unprotected. Jesus didn't say, hey, get into the safe places if it's convenient. He said, get into the safe places or you won't survive what's coming. So you have a choice to make. You can keep living your comfortable, busy, distracted life and hope everything works out. Or you can make radical changes right now, today, and position yourself for protection. Let me tell you what I did. I looked at my schedule and I eliminated 30 minutes of morning social media scrolling, now worship time, 30 minutes of evening TV watching, now intimacy time, 30 minutes of lunch break, mindless browsing, now intercession time, 90 minutes. I already had them. I was just spending them on things that weren't preparing me for what's coming. You have the time. You're just going to have to choose to reallocate it. The honest question I need you to answer. Here's what I need from you right now, and I need you to be completely honest. Are you going to do this? Not, I'll think about it. Not, that sounds good. Not, I'll try. Are you actually going to commit to this 30-day safe place challenge? Are you going to print out this roadmap, post it where you'll see it every day, and walk through it step by step? Drop a comment right now. Say, I commit, if you're all in, because I need to know who's receiving this word, who's responding, who's part of the remnant. And if you're not willing to commit, if this feels too radical, too extreme, too costly, I need you to ask yourself why. What are you holding on to that's more valuable than protection in the tribulation? What comfort are you unwilling to sacrifice? What part of your life are you refusing to surrender? Because here's the reality. Jesus is coming back. The tribulation is beginning. December 2025 is a starting point, and no amount of hoping or wishing or casual Christianity is going to protect you from what's coming. Only radical positioning in the safe places will. The final vision. I need to tell you about one more thing Jesus showed me before I close this final part. Yesterday morning, December 6th, while I was in prayer, I had a brief flash of vision. I saw two groups of people. Both were Christians. Both loved Jesus. Both were sincere in their faith. But they were in completely different positions. The first group was huddled together in the darkness, terrified, confused, crying out to God but not hearing anything. They were under attack, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and they had no defense, no protection, no peace. And I heard Jesus say, "These are my people who loved comfort more than consecration, who wanted my blessings, but not my lordship, who said they believed in me but never fully surrendered to me." The second group was standing in light so bright it was almost blinding. They were calm, at peace. Some were even worshiping. The chaos swirled around them, but it couldn't touch them. And I heard Jesus say, "These are my remnant. These are the ones who heard the warning and responded. These are the ones positioned in the safe places. These are the ones who will not just survive but thrive in the darkness, because they carry my light wherever they go." And then he asked me a question that shattered me. "Jonathan, which group do you want to be in?" The answer was obvious. The first group had no hope, no protection, no future. The second group had everything. But then he asked me a harder question. "Which group are most of your viewers going to choose?" And I didn't have an answer, because I don't know. I don't know how many people will actually respond to this message. I don't know how many will commit to the 30-day challenge. I don't know how many will make the radical changes necessary to get into the safe places. I hope it's many. I pray it's most. But I know, Jesus told me clearly, that it will only be a remnant, because most people, even sincere Christians, will find reasons to dismiss this message. Too extreme, too radical. That's not my theology. I'll wait and see. And they'll weight themselves right into spiritual devastation. Your decision point. So here we are. The end of part 4. The end of this 4-part message. Over 10,000 words across 4 posts, all pointing to one critical truth. December 2025 is the beginning of the tribulation, and there are 6 safe places where God's people can be protected. Radical worship, radical obedience, radical intimacy, radical holiness, radical intercession, radical surrender. You now know what they are. You now have the 30-day roadmap to position yourself in all of them. You now have a deadline, January 6th, 2025. What you do next determines everything. I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to manipulate you. I'm not going to use fear tactics or emotional pressure. I'm just going to tell you the truth. You have a choice to make, and that choice has eternal consequences. You can go back to your comfortable life, scroll past this message, forget you ever read it, and hope everything works out. Or you can say yes. You can commit. You can start the 30-day challenge today, right now, and position yourself for protection. Drop your comment. Say, "I commit." Share this message with other people who need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you get updates as we walk through what's coming. And most importantly, start your 30 days today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Day 1 begins the moment you finish reading this. 30 minutes of radical worship. Right now, before you do anything else. Because the clock is ticking, the window's closing, and January 6th, 2025 is coming, whether you're ready or not. The final word. Jesus gave me one more message to share with you. He said, "Tell them I love them. Tell them this warning is mercy, not judgment. Tell them I'm providing a way of escape for everyone who's willing to take it. Tell them I'm not trying to scare them, I'm trying to save them. And tell them that those who respond, those who commit, those who get into the safe places, they're going to see my glory in ways they never imagined possible. You've been marked. You've been chosen. You've been warned. You've been given the roadmap. Now it's time to walk it out. I'll be here, walking it with you, posting updates, sharing testimonies, providing encouragement. Because we're in this together. The remnant, the marked ones, the people who said yes when everyone else said it was too hard. Welcome to the safe places. Your 30 days start now. December 7th, 2025, January 6th, 2025. The clock is ticking. Will you be ready?